Well. Hello there, LinkedIn fam, Facebook fam, YouTube, Twitter. Hi, I'm Michelle Gardner-Ince, and as you know, it's a very special day. I'm here with my mom. She's the woman of the hour, but before that, it's my pleasure to introduce the best brother in the world, Dr. Adrian Gardner, CEO of the blockchain company. But y'all know I don't know him like that. He is my baby big brother. He has always set the pace. He is retired senior executive, CIO. He is now the CEO of his own company. He was in SES at the age of 35, blowing everybody out of the water. And I always tell everybody the reason I got my master's degree, or I started working on it, and I did the fast track because I didn't want him to beat me. But welcome to the GI Factor. You all know me on LinkedIn. I do podcasts weekly, but I could not pass up the opportunity to celebrate Military Spouse Appreciation Day. Along with my brother and I, we were military brats, as they say, and wow, we had an amazing time and got to watch a firsthand a military spouse that really just set the standard. Before I get started, I'm always going to give my disclaimer. I work for the Department of Veteran Affairs, 9 to 5. All opinions and views expressed are purely my own and those of in attendance. But we're here to celebrate military spouses. And then I'm going to turn it over to my brother, and then I'll pick back up after him because he's going to take it away there, little big bro, Dr. Adrian.
So good evening, good afternoon, good morning for those of y'all that are calling in overseas. And it's a pleasure to participate in this unique experience in my life, to have the honor of honoring our mother, Mrs. Willie M Gardner. She is the epitome of a military spouse, and we'll get into that conversation. But let me give a slight backdrop on our father. My father was Colonel retired Arthur R. Gardner. He is now deceased. He passed in 1989. He was born 18th of May, and they met at Tuskegee Institute at that time. So we graduated from Institute, not university. I tell you, we just got a little flavor of age, a sprinkling of age among us. But at that time, it was named Tuskegee Institute. And they met at that university, which many of you, if you don't know, is a historically Black college and university. It is the home of a Detachment 015, which is the Tuskegee Airmen. So if you don't know that background, which you should, but I would appease you, or at least employ that you actually go and do a little reading to get some insight of how important that institution was to the military and to our country. But they met at Tuskegee and were married there, I believe, in the chapel on campus, and they formed a strong relationship there. And even at that point in time, you saw my mother sort of supporting my father, because my father went on to enlist in the Army as a second lieutenant, and my mom stayed behind with my sister at that time, right before finishing up college, to finish up her degree, and then also joined him. So even at that time, there was an understanding between the two of them on how to support each other early on from a standpoint of bridging that relationship. They moved further there, where my father joined the Corps of Engineers. I believe he went in at Fort Benning in Georgia, where he also went through jump school. And then they went on to Germany, and I joined them in 1964 when I was born, and my sister was born in 1961. Not to age us, but I'm just going to give us time to say that we have spent some time on this earth, right? But throughout even that experience, so imagine a person that had never been on a plane, never left the shores of the continental United States, having the courage to travel to Germany with two children at that time. Well, one child and then two children the second time,
Mm-hmm.
because we had two tours in Germany when I was there. And so imagine that a woman coming from Albany, Georgia, mother of a daughter of a seamstress and a taxi driver, and my father was a son. I think there were five children. He was the oldest boy among them. Just to tell you, how impactful that family was. So he's from Fitzgerald, Georgia. His mother was an English teacher. She taught many children, black and white, English. She was known for being strict about her handwriting, and at some point she converted my father from left-handed to right-handed, because at that time she was like, you're going to write the way everybody else writes. So she did that, and then his father was Joseph Gardner, and he was a porter on a railroad, not trained in education. I think he had a sixth grade education, but a pillar in the community there in Fitzgerald, Georgia. And so the two of them also, I think my mom emulated some of what the relationships he saw with my grandfather Gardner and Eula Gardner, as she thought about how her role would be from perspective of supporting this military man. So, what I would say is that you see a person of courage, a person that's not afraid to embrace the unknown. Because imagine somebody coming from rural Georgia, again, traveling overseas and having these different experiences. And then Colonel Arthur R. Gardner, as you see, he did get to the rank of colonel. At one point, he was the commander of the 7th Signal Corps combat engineers in Maryland. For those of you who don't know, that does a lot of the support for Camp David, especially from a communications perspective. So I just wanted to start us off there with a bit of history, a bit of background on them and their relationship, and knowing that, to set the stage for now jumping into Germany and kind of her experiences there and talking about their early years. So with that, let me toss it back to Michelle.
Thank you, brother. So before we go, I do want to say, happy celebrate military spouses all over this country. You've seen, what we're going to talk about is kind of walk through my mother's career. My brother kind of set the background. We're going to talk a little bit about the early days at the first duty station, then roll through, some years when my dad first went to Vietnam. And then we'll talk about, the return, as my brother said, back to Germany, where she received the award of Military Wife of the Year. And then we're also going to talk about her time in Arizona, where she got her master's degree. And I'll let her talk some. But Mom, there are thousands of women who serve and follow their man. That's what I always told everybody. I said my mom followed her man because, by the time I went to Tuskegee, I'd been to 17 different schools. So if dad was going to a training, we picked up and went. So Mom, kind of tell us how did you get started? Tell us the story of getting you and I ready for that first trip. First, greet everybody, and then tell us about that first trip to Germany and what that was like.
Hello, everyone. I'm just so humbled to be spotlighted today. I'm a very shy kind of person, but I will tell my story. First of all, as Adrian mentioned, my husband and I met at Tuskegee. We graduated in the class of 1962. And so his first assignment was the Misa Army Depot, ammunition depot in Germany. So, but him being a second lieutenant, he didn't get housing right away. So Michelle and I, who was like 18 months old, had to wait until we were afforded to have what we call housing The second lieutenants, you know, they don't just walk over there and they have an apartment for them. So we had to wait a while before we could go over. In the meantime, let me backtrack a little bit. This was like 1963. And historically, we were just beginning the civil rights movement. In fact, my hometown, Albany, Georgia, was the first city that asked for worldwide, citywide, I should say, integration of all the services. So anyway, we had boycotted the city. I wanted to tell you that we had boycotted the city, so it means we did not shop at the stores in the town. So getting the orders that we were going to be going to Germany, I had to order by the catalog, from Spiegel catalog it was, Michelle snowsuit and boots and all that. But then, you know, mother always put themselves last. I did not order myself, and I had a coat, but I didn't have boots. When we arrived in Germany, which was my first flight, and I can tell you, making that little trip from going from the building to board the plane was one of the most terrifying times of my life. My knees were shaking, and I'm holding on to Michelle. And so we boarded the plane, and we landed in Frankfurt Rhein-Main Airport. So I get there, put Michelle in a nursery because Art was not right there to pick us up. When we walked outside, there was snow knee deep, and I was wearing tennis shoes. I don't know what I expected, but anyway. So anyway, we get to Kaiserslautern, which was the military housing area in Forest. So we got there, and of course, you know, one of the first places we went was to buy me some boots. So we got boots for me and everything. I already had a coat. And then so we would spend time in the quarters while Art had to drive at least 30 miles for a commute to Miesau, Germany, which is near Rheinstein, Rhein-Main Air Force Base, Ramstein Air Force Base. So I will say this, it was my first introduction, first of all, to living in an integrated society. I had lived in Georgia and Alabama the rest of all of my life and had never been north of Atlanta when I went to Germany. So when I went to the first Officers' Wives Club meeting, I was the only Black person there, but that didn't bother me. I graduated from Tuskegee Institute, and when I left there, I said they could send me to Germany, to Russia, and I would speak the language, and I would be just fine.
Can I pause there?
Yeah.
I think that's something that oftentimes is not necessarily appreciated or valued. What a great character strength that is, to be adaptable and to be able to go to places. Military wives have been doing. Yeah. You did this for 30 plus years, but even today, military wives are going to places that they've not been and adapting and making a home and making a life. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. Once you got to housing, some of the experiences that happened there, at the first.
And our first of all, our apartment was on the 4th floor, had a 2-bedroom apartment. It was furnished with the furniture that had been used by many other military families. So we had whatever was left over. We had china and crystal and all of that, but it was the leftovers. Art and I, first of all, let's backtrack a little bit. Adrian mentioned that we got married at Tuskegee. We got married by the chaplain, and one of the witnesses was the Y leader. So we had nothing.
The Y leader?
Yeah, the one with the YMCA.
Oh, YMCA leader.
Okay. Yes, the Y. I had the Y. So anyway, so we didn't have furniture or anything like that, or all the things that people get when they have a big marriage and a wedding and all that. But I will say this. We started off with nothing, and we ended up with a lot with each other. We were rich. I think I was reading this morning in Proverbs, which I read the book of Proverbs every month. There's 31 chapters. I read one chapter each day. So it was talking about it's better to have food, like vegetables and a happy home than have the riches and have turmoil. So that's the way it was with us. We were always united. And I want to get back to about my introduction to military life.
Mhm.
As I said, it was a small ammunition depot. And my husband was the only Black officer, which means I was the only Black officer's wife. And I just credit the commander's wife with her wisdom. She looked at me, she introduced me to the group, and she gave me an assignment. I was to contact the cultural activities, find out the cultural activities in the city of Mizal and the surrounding towns, and each month make a report to the group. I had a job to do, so I wasn't worried about being shy or not knowing anyone or whatever. I had something to do, and it started my journey into service. From there, I did substitute teaching as well as working in a thrift shop, and I'm a thrift shopper till this day. So you see me all dolled up, but I'm telling you, I'm not paying those prices like Ralph Lauren and all of those. You know, I'm going to find a bargain. So anyway, that started my journey to service. So each unit, a place we went to after that, I found a way to be of service to the community, whether it be serving on the child care advisory board, whether I mentioned about the thrift shopping. I work with Honor Community Service Organization. Even when my husband's stationed at Fort Belvoir as an advanced officer, I was the tour guide on the bus that took people around to introduce Fort Belvoir to the community.
And you try to say you're shy, Mom.
I am very shy. And so I just, so anyway, I just kept going. I don't know, even now, it is hard for me not to say no when it comes to something to do in the community. Sometimes I have to sit on my hands and see from raising my hand to say, I'll do it. So, but I'm beginning to slow down some. But first of all, so after our first tour in Germany, he was assigned to.
Let me interject. Before you leave the first tour, also talk a little bit about what it felt like from a perspective of the sense of being the first representative of our race as far as on that base, military wife. What did that feel like? I mean, I know you said and I appreciate what the commander's wife did, because one of the things that we often do is we don't realize that help can come from various sources.
Amen.
And a lot of times we get caught up in, I'm the only one, so therefore I can only think about I can only look to those folks like me to be supportive. But in reality, especially with military, what you find is there's a lot of varied support around the point. So tell me a little bit about that.
Along with the support, first of all, like I said, I mentioned, first of all, going to Tuskegee, and I'll say this for HBCUs, we received not only an education, but we learned how to navigate the system wherever we are. That's when I said they could send me to Russia and I would be okay. So I really didn't think too much, having grown up really in rural Georgia and Alabama. So I didn't have a lot of neighbors, so I didn't expect too much from the people around me. If I had something to do, I was focused on that. That's my mission. And I didn't care about who was there, who I was helping or not helping, or who liked or didn't like me. That was not a concern for me. I'm still at this stage, I'm very focused on me. Yeah. And I tell people, I'm not going to do anything illegal or immoral. I'm going to be a service to others. And what you think of me is none of my opinion, none of my business. So I just sort of went with that. I didn't care whether they were black, white, gray, whoever they were.
Right.
And I can remember when Michelle, I guess she must have been about 3, and we were in the German community. And I thought it was so amusing because this German lady came and she didn't want to rub her skin to see if the brown was going to look her hand to see if the brown was going to come. But I wasn't offended by that. I just thought, as a person who was curious, and she probably had often wondered about what happened, and she saw it wasn't just something that rub off. So I don't spend a lot of time worrying about what other people, so I can walk into a room, don't know anyone, never seen these people in my life. Walk up, introduce myself to someone, and I learned the secret you get people talking about their favorite subject, which most of the time is themselves. So I just nod and throw in a question or two. And before I know it, I've met my best friend.
Good.
So
Thank you.
So I didn't worry too much about, what color they were or what, I love people, and I think it shows the way I interact with people.
Right. And that's an important life lesson. I think I wanted you to draw that up a little bit more, because especially now, and in the military, we have more of an experience than others, because we do have a common mission. And so we always put that mission above personal, social, political views. So I can say the same about that in some of the governments, but it's important to understand that, because you carried that with you, and like you said, Tuskegee, as well as supporting your husband, that is something that folks can emulate, as well as understand, and how to navigate those experiences. Because many of them are experiencing some of those same experiences you're talking about today. Sometimes they are first. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because Dad was one of the first Black Army Corps of Engineer officers.
That's right.
And coming from Tuskegee and majoring in combat engineering, but construction engineering. So I'm sorry. But Mom, talk about how Tuskegee prepped you to be a military wife. A lot of being a military wife involves not only serving others in the community, but also entertaining.
Oh gosh, when I was accepted to attend Tuskegee, I had applied to go to School of Education to be a teacher. When I got there, before I even registered, I changed my major to home economics. One of the best moves I made, because as students in home economics, when the president had to entertain visitors, we would prepare the food for them. Of course, I'm not a good cook, and I still don't say that I do so well today, but I would always take the role of setting the table and putting a nice centerpiece on it and all of that, and helping to serve. So serving, I guess I've been serving my whole life, but then I've had an opportunity to entertain so many people. I would say we were living in the Virgin Islands, during the hurricanes, we would have people who military officers who were with their families had come to spend some time at St. Croix. And of course, here we are with, flooding and all of that. And I'm entertaining people, having people come, the lights are off and everything. But we would sit around the pool and talk. We live poolside. We were blessed in that regard. So we just go out and sit around the pool and talk until it gets night. And we come in and put the candles and so forth. So yes, I have learned how to entertain and be of service, no matter what kind of setting I am. Whether it's my husband surprisingly bringing people home for dinner. I guess he must have had some confidence in my ability to cook and entertain, because he would show up with people for dinner. So, like I said, I just love people.
Yeah.
And,
talk to me a little bit. So we're also, when you mentioned home ec, one of the things that I think was phenomenal, that an experience that we need to revive. Tell them a little bit about the houses in the Valley where you had your family, right? Because I want you to, that's where I was hoping you were going to go, so that you can tell them about how you learned to balance life as a family, right, early on. And that was an actual course at Tuskegee. So can you give us a little bit of that?
Thank you for reminding me. It's been over, I graduated from Tuskegee 62 years ago. So I have forgotten about all of that. That was two little homes down, we call it in the Valley. The campus is so beautiful. But anyway, down in the Valley, there were two homes that the home economics students lived in. You would spend a semester there. So you spend part of the time with low income, then the other part you would learn how to manage a household, and you would change duties every week. You might be a cook this time, you might be the laundress the next time, you might, anyway, went through all of the tasks that one has to do to run a house. So I learned how to budget and manage my money, our money, I should say. And so I knew how to live and say, in the middle class as well as the low income. My husband we were definitely in the low income category. But my husband was his first assignment. His monthly salary was $222.22.
People pay that for a purse today.
So thank God we did have military housing, so we didn't have to, take, that was the housing was already deducted from his salary, but his take home salary was $222.22. And I love my husband. He just saw me as a partner. So ladies, I had $20 a month to spend out of that $22. But and another thing I tell you that it really helped too, to have spent time in those demonstration homes down in the valley, is that I could figure out a budget. So I'd make my menus before I went to the grocery store, to the commissary, and then I would shop. And then what I would do is, I know at the end of the month you don't have any money, but so I would have the beans and everything at the first of the month where you felt good, you just got paid. And then at the end of the month, then we would have the steaks, whatever, pork chops or whatever, the more expensive cuts of meat. So I would do that. So home economics paid out in a lot of ways. I also had a cookbook called 50 Ways to Cook Hamburger. The only time I eat hamburgers today is a hamburger. And I'm eating at someone's cookout. I don't cook hamburgers or meatloaf or any of that kind of stuff. To forget any of that, so.
No, yeah. Thank you very much. And that's the point I wanted you to make.
I've forgotten it completely.
Yeah. And now, Michelle, maybe time-wise, maybe we could switch over to the experiences in when they left. Well, I guess before they left Germany, right? But what's the next?
Right. Well, what I was thinking is we definitely wanted to highlight the second tour to Germany, where you really got that's where your highlights and your accolades came from for the military wives. So how did you get nominated? How did this come about?
Well,
wait. First of all, at the first duty location, the commander's wife kind of recommended you get into community service, right?
Right.
So how did you by the time you came back to Germany, you've been to several other assignments, right? We were the first assignment.
So we had Colorado and Fort Belvoir.
And then you came back to Germany the second time. So what made you jump into community service that it brought this accolade?
First of all, as I said, I go about doing what I feel like doing. If it's in service to the community, I love being with people. So I was reporter for the newsletter for the 130th Engineer Brigade. I was singing on the chapel choir. I was vacationing Sunday school Bible teacher. I was substitute teacher in the school system. I was teaching exercise classes at the Officers' Wives Club. I'm trying to think.
While you're thinking, let me tell y'all, my mother used to do exercises. This was when there was an album cover, okay?
LP.
Long play album cover. And the pictures of the exercises, because I remember her were about this big, the size of a little passport picture. And she would memorize them and be exercising and teaching. Amazing. Anyway, go ahead, Mom. While you think about other stuff.
So anyway, that was we were talking about all the things I did.
That kind of led up to.
Right. So I was serving as a counselor at the Drug and Alcohol Counseling Center. It was called Schönesheim, which is mean beautiful home. So we had a building, had no furniture. There was no budget for funds for the furniture. And I told you I'm a recycling nut. So I had a friend with a pickup truck. So I think I would say Thursday night, we would go in the German community, because that would be their night. They would put things out on the curb, the furniture and all that. So we would load up the truck and we would come bring it back to this center. And then we'd look at refinishing them. I made curtains and all of that kind of stuff. And then, so we furnished the center, because it could not really operate because the people had nowhere to sit or anything, no furniture, anything. So it's got the attention of the commander. And so what he did was wanted to nominate me for Military Wife of the Year. And of course, I don't want to do that because I don't like the limelight. So my husband encouraged me, go on, do it. So we entered me in. So I won on the local level. Then we had the V Corps, which is 5 Corps, or whatever that. Let me make an observation here. I was a military wife all that time. You know, I was so busy doing my thing. I didn't pay attention to all that ranking, all of that stuff. You know, I was never one wearing my husband's rank. Hold on, I'm wearing it today. But anyway, so I won on that level. And then from there, I was advanced to USARA, which is U.S. Army of Europe, Army Wife of the Year. And the next step was to advance to come to D.C. to compete in the top Military Wife of the Year. And I was selected first alternate, the national finalist for that position. About that time, it was time for us to rotate back to the United States. That's when we get a new assignment. So, praise God. Art was selected to attend Arizona State University to get his master's degree in civil engineering. And so, because we had the students before, he looked at me and said, "You're going to get your master's too?" And I said, "Okay." Just like that. Okay. That's the kind of person I want. Okay. So we came back to the United States. It was near the end of the school year again. So Michelle and Adrian had to change schools to finish up the school year. Let me backtrack a minute. Michelle was in 5th grade before she finished 1 grade in 1 school. So she was always, that's why she's so social now. She would say she would make friends with everybody, whoever she's sitting beside, whether they're the popular kid in the school or worst kid in the classroom. You know, she's so busy trying to make friends. So, but anyway, my husband went on to Arizona State while the kids and I went to Albany, Georgia for them to finish out the school year. So my brother-in-law helped me drive to Arizona, and we had a house in Tempe, Arizona. And so, yeah, it was Tempe. It was Tempe, Arizona. So anyway, once I got there, and we got the household goods and all that. So one thing I would always do that helped me to adjust when we would move. The first thing I would do, I would put nothing on my plate until I got the house ordered. In a week, you would never know I just moved in.
Why did you do that?
Because first of all, excuse me, I have a dry eye here. First of all, one thing, a lot of people looked at military life as being sort of temporary. You move from here to there. Wherever we went was home. And I wanted the kids to feel like this was home. We don't know how long we're going to be here, but it is going to be home. And I wanted to feel like home. Mm-hmm. And let me say one other thing. When Art went to Vietnam, he was in the technology. When he left, Adrian was 17 months old. So I wanted the children to be able to identify with their dad, his voice, as well as his pictures. Mm. So we had those mini cassette players. So we would send cassette tapes back and forth. So he could sing happy birthday to them, and they could do happy Father's Day and all of that. So anyway, it was very important for me. The home was the home front. And when you have a solid home foundation, I think you're able to meet the world. And so I tried to prepare my children to be citizens, to make a contribution, to be involved in the community. First of all, let me backtrack again. I just mentioned that I grew up in the Deep South during Jim Crow, which means I didn't get to go to the swimming pool. I didn't know how to do anything. So my children had to take swimming lessons. They were bullied. You know what I did? I signed them up for martial arts so they could defend themselves. That's put an end to the bullying. So whatever was available, I was going to make my children have the resources they needed to participate, not to stay back and say, well, I can't. If you're invited to do something, say, you can make a choice whether you want to do something or not. That I can't. I can't was not in my vocabulary, and I determined it would not be theirs. I remember Adrian must have been about 4th grade, and I had a teacher conference, and the teacher said, "Oh, he is so cute. He just, he makes us laugh." I say, stop right here. I am not sending him here to entertain anyone. I'm sending him to get an education so that if he wants to go to West Point, he will have the grade point to get there. Please do not ever tell me that. And I will speak to him at home. He will not be entertaining in class anymore.
That's probably why you got a PhD now.
Yeah, and Mom, I think one of the things too, because we were just having a conversation yesterday about with my son Aiden and being able to transition, right? It's being fearful of being new, right? I think a lot of us, when we move as military spouses, move from place to place, the fear is that they're new, right? And so they always have the challenge of sort of fitting in. But one of the things I also want you to talk about is, remember wherever you moved, how we did the open house for our neighbors, right? We always did that wherever we moved. So we were, like she was saying, home was where the heart is, but we also opened it up to let people know that we were present, that we were approachable. And so speak a little bit about, when you've done that in the past.
Entertained. Like
an open house, like, when you first moved into any neighborhood, we were doing like a little family open house.
First of all, before we had that, we always had our little ambassador who go out in the community, and she would introduce herself and tell them who we were and where we come from, and tell. So Michelle was always out making friends for us. But it's a good, like I said, Art and I were a great team. He loved entertaining as well as I. So he loved opening home up to people, and we love people, and I think it showed. And that home economics background came in handy. I could do the orders and the pinafores and all those kind of things. But
I think one of the points that, as we've talked, is that a lot of times when we move into communities, sometimes we would have an open house, and I remember them well, and that would be the first time that those neighbors really even spoke to each other was at our house, right?
Yeah.
And so the sense of community that we had from a standpoint of military and being representative of military families in the community also was there, because we would open up the house, we'd bring the neighbors that were close in our little, surrounding community, and they would pop. This is the first time potentially that they've ever spoken to each other since they moved into the neighborhood, right? But we also made a point of, attempting to bring the sense of community immediately around our home, right, with our neighbors and friends around the neighborhood.
True. And I think, Mom, as we're talking about community, when you arrived at Arizona State and you decided to study, get your master's, tell us what the title was and the community you reached out to help in your research.
I did, although you hear me talk about it, I didn't pay attention to rank or anything. I never was one of those women who, my husband this, my husband is that. I didn't do all that. Was not a lot of, my husband's the colonel, he's the, I was never that. But when we went to Arizona, as I said, my husband said when he was selected to go get his master's, that I was getting mine also. So as I mentioned, he had a head start on me because I had gone to Georgia with the kids to finish up their school year. So I arrived there, and so I made an appointment to see the dean of the Graduate School of Home Economics. So I brought my transcript and all of that. So she looks at my transcript and she said in a condescending way, we're kind of rigorous here, and having graduated from that historical college, these are not her words, but that was the gist of it. Is that, I don't know if you would be able to measure up. I said, well, Dr. Hoover, would you mind telling me what are the requirements to get into the graduate school? Oh, we have to finish. You have to pass the GRE, and then you will take 12 credits, and if you make B above, then we'll consider accepting you into the graduate school. So I said, well, yeah, I'm new on this campus. I'm new in Arizona. I've been out of the country for 4 years. Please, would you mind giving me some direction? Who do I contact to do the GRA and GRE and all of that? And then so she gave me the information. And then I found a tutor because I know I hadn't been in school for 12 years. So I needed a little refresher on the math. And so anyway, I got a math tutor and all that. So I completed the GRE with the report. I don't remember what the grade had to be, what the score had to be, but I had a passing score. So I went back to Dr. Hoover. And so I enrolled in 12 credits, with her class being one of them. One thing I don't know about military spouses nowadays, but because my husband was stationed at Arizona State, I was an in-state student. So
that's where it is now.
Oh, I didn't know.
It's a
okay.
law.
Oh, it's a law now. Okay, I didn't know that. But anyway, so he paid for my tuition on credit card. So that's what our credit card bills was tuition and whatever I needed to enroll in the classes. So anyway, I took the 12 courses. This instructor was one of them. So she just ignored me in class. I could raise my hand. She didn't ignore me. She didn't call on me or anything. So those 12, when I did those 12 credits, the only B that I received was the one from her. And I thought, so when I got my grades, she said, oh, and then you, once you get your grades, then you bring them and we'll talk from there. So I made an appointment to talk with her again and showed her my grades and all that. So she just sort of smiled and said, well, now we have 2 tracks. You may take the thesis. You can take the thesis track, or you can take 30 credits, or you can take 36 credits, and you will need to pass lawful trainer thought you have to pass a test to be in it.
Exam. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I said, well, my husband's here on a short period he's on the side here a short period of time. He has a head start on me, so I would need to take the thesis track. So from there, I contacted, I think it was William.
Luke Air Force Base, Williams Air Force Base.
It was in Arizona, in their Phoenix. So anyway, let me backtrack. While I was in that first class, because I majored in child development and family relations, I was taking a family relationship class from Dr. Hoover. That's the one I got to be. But we had to do abstracts of articles. And so I had read an article and did an abstract on it. It was called How Military Children and Their Wives, military wives, have problem transition and just really just being able to be in the community. Because the husbands are off in the fields and all that. And during this article was talking about how the wives would always be coming to the doctor with the kids. And a lot of times there was nothing wrong with the kids, but they wanted someone to give attention to themselves. So I thought about that article and I said, you know what, let me look at military families. I'm always been concerned about the family and community. So I contacted the Air Force Base. They had summer school. And so I got permission from the powers that be to involve a class of 5th, 6th, and 7th graders. And my topic was the relationship between military families, their acceptance of that lifestyle, and geographic mobility, because we were moving. Like I said, Michelle went to 5 schools before 5th grade before she finished 1 grade in 1 school. So I thought, okay, let me look into this. And I used Sears aggression scale to get my data. So I had a questionnaire for the parents and then one for the children. Mm-hmm. So what we did, out of all of them, you know how it is when you're doing research, you don't always get them all back. So I got about 25 of them back. And so my research was based on those 25 that I was able to get the data from. So at that time, we had computers, but I was not computer savvy. So we had to pay someone to analyze the data and all of that and draw up their little tables and all that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did all of that. So I've always, I guess, been on the cutting edge of things, just not actually into it myself. So anyway,
Well, I would say, Mom, though, that you don't give yourself enough credit because she is very open to learning,
Yeah.
new things. In fact, she's I think pretty tech savvy to be an 80-plus-year-old. I think she can do Zoom classes. She takes exercises and Zumba or yoga or strength training and takes all kinds of classes. What?
Pickleball.
Pickleball. Oh my God, yes, she's obsessed with pickleball now. So she's doing pickleball several times a week. So she's always been extremely active and I think a lifelong learner. So also I want to say during your time at Arizona State was when you found out about the award, wasn't it? Because I remember pictures
Yes.
of us. Y'all, I can't even show you a picture because I had glasses and she made me wear these old lady chains because I had lost so many glasses. So anyway, but I think what I wanted to bring out there is not only did you do the research, but you weren't able to finish the research before Dad had the PCS because we came after he had already started. Right. So do you want to talk about Adrian and I and
Yes.
kind of that time period? You got the award, then shortly after had to PCS, but then also you weren't complete.
And Michelle, make sure you would tell them what the award was because
the Military Wife of the Year 1973 award is what we're talking about. So she got that for her time in Germany, but the award recognition didn't really come until after.
Right. So she was the U.S. Army Wife of the Year in 1973.
Correct.
Okay. So what am I picking up?
So pick up where you left because I want to kind of talk about you and Dad, how support in he going before you and then you having to join him in Missouri and then come back.
Okay. So I had not completed. I had done all of the research, but the writing of the data and all of that and massaging that to find out whether that was a relationship between these two variables, military lifestyle and accepting military geographic mobility as a way of life in the military. So here I was. We returned. We left Arizona and moved to Missouri. My husband assignment was Deputy District Engineer for the St. Louis District. His office was at Merrimack State Park in Sullivan, Missouri, in the middle of nowhere. When he was in his office, he was the sole person of color in that whole county. So we looked at each other and we said, my kids will not be in this environment. They need diversity. So Art contacted the Fort Leonard Wood housing, and so we were able to live in the housing area there. And so here I am, still working on the thesis, and I would drive 30 miles to the University of Missouri at Rolla. And we're doing this the old-fashioned way, use their printers and all of that. And then I'm mailing things to my team back and forth and re-editing and rewriting and all of that.
Now, email or mail? Snail mail.
Snail mail. They didn't have it. Snail mail. So anyway, so I'm waiting to get this packet and back and forth. So it got to the point where I think it was about 6 weeks or so before I needed to meet with my committee. So Art helped me drive from Missouri back to Tempe, Arizona. He got me a studio apartment and he left me. Of course, I had the car, so he flew back to be with the children. Michelle and Adrian had to learn to be resilient. So we left them. She was 14 and he must have been 9. And they knew that, they lived in quarters, so they knew people down the street if they needed anything. So he flew back. And so I was able to concentrate on my studies. First of all, ladies, military spouses. This was my time that I thought I had always been so involved in my family. If they are happy, I'm happy. I learned that, I can watch in a TV program I want to. I can have whatever I want for dinner. So, I learned to sort of appreciate me as a person. Before then, I was always somebody's mom or somebody's wife or whatever, me as a person. So anyway, we stayed there and finished up my thesis. You have to orally defend it. It was like meet the press. So you got these questions. How did you control for bias? How did you do this? How did you do that? And when I finished that interview, I could have picked up a building and walked with it. I was so confident, and I thought, you know what? I can do this. So I already had to call back because I was leaving one way or another, whether I passed or not. So I got in the car about noon and I drove from Phoenix to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Never driven all this, all first for me. First time checking into a hotel. So I had never done that, so I requested a wake-up call. I was so excited I couldn't sleep, so I got up and left in the middle of the night, started driving, and arrived home in Missouri at 10 p.m. that night. So from there, I learned that my neighbors were gossiping about me. You know how it is, we're in a small community, you live in the quarters, everybody talks about you, they have been seeing me go dress up and go to University of Maryland, Missouri. They know where I was going. They just know I dressed up, I was going and I was dressed somewhere and I went somewhere. So when I left to go to finish my thesis, they said I had left art with the children.
Well, if there's no news, we're going to make news.
So anyway, after that, then I got my first teaching job. But before then, though, I have to tell you that everything wasn't all smooth. I was almost like returning to Jim Crow. One Friday afternoon, Michelle was not allowed to ride home on the school bus. They put her off the bus. I'm waiting for her. They didn't call me. I'm at home, so no one had called me. So the kids came and said, Miss Gardner, they put Michelle off the bus and she didn't do nothing. I tried to call the school. Nobody's answering. I drive to the school. Nobody's there. I am beside myself. I don't know what to do. Art is 60 miles away at Sullivan or on the Mississippi River someplace. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? So anyway, I get back. And by this time I get back home, there was one other person of color riding the bus, and I've forgotten what the girl's name was. Whatever. Anyway, the two of them were put off the bus. So anyway, she had got in touch with her parents, and they had given them a ride home. I called the principal, and I spoke to him. First of all, I said, my child is home safely. I'm telling you, you and I are two lucky people. You have a daughter, so you know what I mean. I said, here we are on the base with all of these guys going through basic training and all of that. And here we got a little 13 or 14-year-old child, 5 miles away from home. And, so anyway, I said, we need to talk. So I set up an appointment for that Monday morning. And so with the bus driver, the vice principal, and the principal. And I said, so we said this. They said, oh, well, so I don't know what he said. Something about they were troublemakers. I said, did you say the front seat was for troublemakers? That's the seat they chose. Michelle told me that they were being bullied, and so they sat on the front seat. So they wouldn't get into a confrontation with someone. So, well, we can solve that. We can sign. I said, no, she would not be assigned any seat. If no one else has a assigned seat on that bus, she better not have one. And she can sit any place she wants to, and no one had better bother her from this point on. So after that, we didn't have any more problems. Incidentally, I finished my thesis, did my dissertation, returned with my degree. And the first job that I got as a teacher was the principal of this school, Wood Junior High School. And he was the most supportive administrator I have ever had. Also have to tell you this. It was interesting. I was in home economics, and so I was the new teacher on the base, in the junior high. And so I by my name Willie, and this was after Title IX, where boys could take home economics classes. So anyway, my classes, if those bachelor level classes were filled, the enrollment was full, because with the name Willie, they thought I was a male, and I was going to teach them how to be a bachelor. I do give them this credit, though. They did a better job as far as attending to the subject matter than the girls, because the girls think, oh, my mom cooks up Friday. We don't have to pay attention to all that. But anyway, I've had some wonderful experiences, and I love people. I love service. And even today, in fact, tomorrow I will be returning to my area because I am teaching facilitating a class on living well with diabetes, teaching people with diabetes how to manage to stay healthy. And so tomorrow will be my last day of that 6-week class. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to me. I'm sorry I ran on and on and on.
No. I was trying. Do we have questions there? Oh, okay. I was going to hold on just a minute. Adrian, did you have a question?
Yeah, let me. Mom, let's jump to because we were in Missouri, and then we went to the Virgin Islands, right? And at that time, my father was the advisor for the National Guard for Hurricane.
Army advisor.
Army advisor, right? So if you can tell me a little bit quickly about sort of that experience. I think that was a rich experience for us because it also talked about you embracing sort of that community as well.
Okay, first of all, our last year in Missouri, we had so much snow. We had to go to school on Saturdays in June to make up the school days. By this time, my husband had orders for us to go to St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, for him to be the senior army advisor for the National Guard. So he was happy about that because he was tired of trying to deal with the snow in his commute. So we arrived there, and so I wanted to again apply for a teaching position. And there it's kind of like they have a lot of nepotism, so they have their own and all that stuff. But I didn't pay attention to any of that. So I put in my application, and how much time? Oh, it's 8:00.
Yeah. Are you having a lot of fun?
Okay, we got it. Go ahead.
And so anyway, I brought I got all my references, my transcripts, and all of that kind of stuff to the Vocational Home Economics Association department. So I put it in, and so I didn't hear anything. So, and one thing about the Virgin Islands, St. Croix, it's a kind of closed community, and we know everybody. Everybody knows you, and you know them. So there was this man that worked for one of the senators, and he got me an appointment to speak with the Department of Education in St. Thomas. We lived on St. Croix. So anyway, I wanted to take all of my documents with me that I had given to the local Department of Education. So I went there, requested them. They couldn't find them. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? This lady doesn't know why I'm coming in the first place. So a few days later, they told me they had located them and they were in the vocational department. So I said, oh, can I ask a big favor of you? Would you please make copies for me and give me, so that I have them for my record? So anyway, so I was able to keep the appointment. I rode the Goose, which is an amphibian plane that flies from St. Croix to St. Thomas, and it leaves on water and it lands on water. So anyway, I got there, and so the lady has an appointment with me. She doesn't know why I'm there. So I have to talk really fast to let her know that why I'm there. And so I explained that they had built a new junior high school in Frederickstead, which is the next little town on St. Croix, and that I know that they would need a position for a home economics teacher. I have all of my credentials here along with my references. Please look over them and tell me what you think. So she looked and she says, you're more than qualified for this position. There's only one problem. We don't have funding for it. And I thought, well, I want to be of service, but I don't want to be teaching for nothing. So anyway, I said, well, can you give me this assurance? When you do get your funding in place, please consider me for that position. She said she would. So I go back to St. Croix, and I contact the person over the vocational department. So we had been talking back and forth. So I told him that, and he was saying, yes, we do not have any funding. I say, well, I'm going to appeal to you the same as I did for the department director. When you get funding, I want to be considered for that position. My husband is here. He's going to be here for at least 3 years, and I'm a teacher, and I want to serve. So I said to him, would you do me a favor? May I call you once a week to find out what kind of progress you're making with your funding? So it had been about 2 or 3 weeks or so, and I hadn't heard from him. I had called and I hadn't heard from him. So I guess it was Thursday night. So I said, it's almost Friday. Let me call him. So I called. No, he called me. It was about 7 o'clock at night. He says, guess where I am? I said, where are you? He said, I'm at my office. I said, what would you be doing at your office at 7 p.m.? He said, you can go to work tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
so that was great news. So, I come through my journey, and it's circuitous, it's not going straight. I'm going to have some go zig right that way, but I always try to just pursue and persist. And that has been my journey. And I want to encourage other military spouses. Your journey is different. You're going to do yours in your own way. And I just applaud each one of you. And I want to wish all of you congratulations as military spouses. I appreciate you. I was once one of them. Oh, one more thing.
Oh, what were you going to?
Muhammad Ali said about service. He said, service to others is the rent we pay for our room on this earth. And I think I have paid mine and still paying.
Wonderful.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. And thank you, Mom, for joining us.
I was going to say, did you want to say something?
Yeah, what I would say is, I think you look at Michelle and I, and we are, we resemble our parents, right? And again, my father gave us pearls of wisdom and different skills, and my mother did the same, right? And we have our innate ability to navigate, to always be grounded as well as connected to our communities. That is what we saw at home. So what I would say is, Mom, I really want to thank you for being that leader for us, for guiding us and always being there for us, but also showing us, the power of what you could do, because it helps us as a man, it helped me understand the power of a woman as well. And I've served under several women leaders, and I got a lot of that from you at home, from a perspective of understanding how to just be supportive of each other as we navigate this thing called life, right? And so I really want to thank you and know that we love you dearly, and appreciate what you gave us.
Yes, I want to echo, what was profound to me is something that our daughter said. And she said, Mom, I want to be like Grammy. That's what we call her. I want to be like Grammy in that I want to stay home with my children early in their life, because I think it really makes a big difference. And that's one of the things I can say is that, we always felt like it was home. And I think that's one of the things that military spouses do. Like Mom said, they have to make a home everywhere they go. And they're always, in many ways, starting over. Military spouse unemployment is one of the highest in the country, because I think Mom didn't say it, but in our previous conversation, employers are always wondering if you're going to stay. So they don't want to, give you a job. But what I do know is now many of the benefits now is that, licenses and things, certifications are portable across state lines. So if you are certified to teach one place, you can be certified to teach. Or if you're certified as social worker in one state, you're certified in other states. And so I think though, we're making strides. Of course, the internet has brought other opportunities for military spouses to have online businesses and do remote work, but we're still not there. And military spouse employment is a big factor in readiness because, um, the family needs to be secure, and the military member needs to feel their family is secure when they're gone, and it increases the longevity of families. And I think if anything, Mom, I want to echo, I always say I want to grow up and be like my mom. Our dad gave us a great foundation. Also he, I think, was a great planner and left mom in a place where she has options. Yeah, go ahead.
May I jump in this?
Please.
My husband would talk about his contemporaries, and they would worry about what would have something happen to them. And he says, son, I have the best insurance in the world. I have a wife with a career.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks to him, I was able to get my master's degree because that's when I started my teaching career. Mm-hmm. And that is so true. And we never preach to the kids, you got to do this, you got to do that. But they saw us as students, they saw us as workers, and they saw us in the community. So they felt that we always try to give them the feeling that you have a place in the community, mm-hmm. and it's your role to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I think we also felt like there was, I don't know, Adrian, I'm going to ask you a question. Did you, based on us sharing the same, house, did you ever feel there was anything you couldn't do?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we saw it in living color, right? I mean,
right.
Both my father and my mother. I mean,
yep.
There was no challenge that they could not, meet and excel at. I mean, that's the other thing. I think it's not. I think this striving for excellence. That's what I mean. That's what I see in my mom. Even when she's talking about pickleball. Believe me, she is striving for excellence, even what she's doing. And
I have told them they're gonna wait till I get good. They're gonna hate to see me coming.
That's right. And so this thing that I think that we got was really one that that we can stand toe to toe with anybody in any room,
mm-hmm.
and at any level, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because we saw our parents do that, whether it be entertaining generals,
true,
to supporting enlisted families on the street.
Yes.
We saw that whole chasm of support for people, right? And I mean, and that's why you see both Michelle and I so committed to our communities. Michelle's happens to be, the veteran woman and vet businesses. Mine is looking. I have also run a nonprofit called the Smart Tech Nexus Foundation, where we actually look at how we empower underserved communities and at-risk communities through data and technology. And so, as you think about these two children, these two products of these two great people, right? Think about, what we're carrying with us then to our children and our children's children. And that's one of the things that's very, very important to us. Even if you look at Michelle's children and my son, we're instilling that sense of purpose around not only what you need to do personally, but also how does what you do impact the community that you live in, right? And so I think that we got a lot of that from, again, that grounding in Tuskegee, because Michelle and I also went to Tuskegee. Oh, happenstance! I don't know how that happened, but it was by design because my dad said that was the only place we could go. But anyway, look, and both of us were going ROTC, so it didn't. Look, I had two choices: Tuskegee or going to West Point. Those are the only two choices I had. I had scholarships on. He was like, great, but you got two choices, right? Right. So, but going back, I mean, I think you really think about, what my mother has done and continues to do, carrying on my father's legacy, because she's doing a lot of what he probably would have wanted her to do, which is be herself, continue to lead and continue to contribute to her community. And those are things that he knew she loved anyway, right? And he knew that. So it was a partnership. It was a team, right? In that you had two people that were not at odds. They always even in difficult times, we're working and pulling in the same direction.
That's so true. And I think if I were to, I'm going to give Mom the last word. So if you have any advice for military spouses, after all of this time, I would say, we were, as my brother said, exposed to great leaders and great community servants. And I think a lot of that gave us assurance of being able to see that. And they always afforded us the opportunity to explore. And even if we didn't want to, we went. Um,
Or
uh,
they came to our home.
yeah. And exactly. But we also knew whatever was happening outside the house, that there was a refuge at home, that they would support us, that they would enable us in any way that we could. And I want to say thank you, Mom, for just being an amazing example, leader. And I want to grow up and be like her, and still be at 84 years young, just living her life, and whatever she wants to do, she can do. And we want you. We're proud of you for doing that.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna let you have. I'm sorry.
No, just telling her we love you, love both of you very much. Yeah.
I would just to say, as a military spouse, as a woman, period, whether you're a spouse or whether you're on your own, you just need to be secure in who you are, with your own standards, your own values. I don't let other people set standards for me. In fact, my thing is this: you are a person. Hopefully, would give you. I'm going to treat you with dignity and respect, no matter what station in life you are. I don't care whether it's the lowest person on the totem pole or the king. We have a king in England now. I can walk up to what is his name?
What is his name?
Charles?
King, yeah, King Charles.
And I feel, I don't feel like I have to bow to him, because one thing, my grandmother, who raised me, went to 4 days of school in her whole life, born in 1865, 1895, right after the Civil War. Well, not the Civil War, but after Emancipation Proclamation. But she said, no one is better than you. You are better than no one else. You don't have to be beholden to anybody. So wherever I see somebody, I don't care what kind of background they have. I interact with people, who, had all kinds of privileges. I had none, but I was never hungry. And one thing about this physical thing, I started in the cotton field. But every day after supper, we had to walk or run a mile. So that physical thing stayed with me. I am not myself until I have done something physical each and every day. So exercise 6 hours a week, not even including pickleball. And thank God, that I am healthy, and I see a purpose in life, and that is to serve my fellow man. And I just want to thank you for listening to my humble story. My journey.
Yes.
My journey.
It's not over. We still
It ain't got a lot more to go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Facebook fam, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, thank you so much for joining us. I'm here with my brother, Dr. Adrian Gardner, and my mother, Willie M Gardner, the daughter of someone who went to the 3rd grade. Her mother and her father went to the 6th or 8th grade, 8th grade. And yet, in one generation, the United States military, the U.S. Army, gave her and my father an opportunity to give my brother and I, much higher, standard of living, and catapulted us to where we are now. We're thankful for the grace of God that we still have her. and we're blessed because of all that my father, Colonel Arthur Gardner, and my mom did. And Adrian, I love you. I'm so proud of you. You set the stand. I'm still running, trying to keep up with you. So bless you. And thanks for joining us and celebrating our mom, Army Wife of the Year for 1973, and runner-up for Military Wife of the Year. So thank you, and we'll say good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Blessings.